Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for another session of Accelo's Best Practice webinars. Our webinar today will focus on the basics of Accelo. So whether you yourself are a new user or you're onboarding new employees in the near future, we hope that you'll find this a useful tool in learning how to navigate the building blocks of the platform. My name is Lainey, and I am a Client Success Manager here at Accelo, and I am joined today by my colleague Sagar, who is one of our Senior Implementation Specialists, and he will be leading the webinar today. His work revolves primarily around onboarding and training new users, so I can assure you that you are in very, very good hands. Just a quick rundown of our agenda today, what we'll be walking through. We're just going to start with a basic introduction to Accelo and the ServOps platform. We're going to take a look at each of our modules: sales, projects, service, tickets, retainers. Then we're going to move on to what it's like to manage your day today in Accelo and what that might look like for you. And then lastly, we're going to cover how to find help. So as you're continuing to learn and explore Accelo, what are your resources for continuing that growth. During the webinar, feel free to use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen to submit any questions you may have for Sagar and myself. We'll either address those during the webinar, or certainly we'll address them at the end, or we will follow up with you post-webinar. So thank you so much for being here, and Sagar, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you so much, Lainey. To start with the background of Accelo. So Accelo is a comprehensive service operations tool with 4 major modules: sales, projects, tickets, and retainers. Think of sales as a way to track your different opportunities, whether it be new or existing clients and upsell opportunities. Projects, think of your project management tool with milestones and tasks. Tickets for your short-term work, and retainers for your recurring work. So in Australia, we're based out of Wollongong, and in the US, we're based out of San Francisco and Denver. Lainey, for example, is based out of Denver, and I'm based out of our San Francisco office. One thing to keep in mind is different teams use Accelo differently. While Accelo is an out-of-the-box solution, every team that, for example, I work with uses Accelo almost far differently than another. While we do have the 4 major modules, for some teams, it could be managing payroll. For others, it could be managing law cases. And what we want you to do is, for today at least, open up the toolbox to each of the different modules, some different work management tools, and see how can you start using it from a day-to-day perspective for your specific team. So if your team has already been using Accelo for a while, then the Accelo champions on your team can share how they are using it in specific. And if you're a prospect, we recommend talking to an account executive. And if you're a current client and want some more assistance, then you can email implementation@accelo.com, and we'll find what the best resources are, whether it be working with someone like myself, Lainey, or someone on our support team. At the end of today's session, I really want you to be able to answer these questions. What do I need to do today? What can I do? What have I done? Where are our projects at? What has my team done today? And what do we need to do in the near future? If you're able to answer these questions, you're on the right track to scaling your operations using Accelo, you specifically, as well as growing your team as well. Throughout this session, again, feel free to ask questions. We're going to be going through live in Accelo itself through the platform in a trial account I made yesterday, and just running through, again, all the fundamentals, lingo, each module, and then managing your day-to-day in Accelo. There's a lot that we're going to be covering. Again, my goal is to open up that toolbox. All of the answers, or at least I won't have all of the answers for what you're maybe looking for today. We have a lot of complimentary webinars, from things like projects and sales to task time and logging time, that are really complementary to this session and kind of building blocks from this session moving forward. So I'm actually going to skip out of there, hit the stream, I'll keep that there, but we're now brought into Accelo. For some of you, you've already been in Accelo, you started using it, and you're just looking to get a little bit more familiar with the platform. And for others, this might be the first time you're using Accelo ever. So to start with, you may be seeing a lot of different icons. If you hit the top left module button, this, that, you can see there's so many different drop downs. If Accelo is going to be a tool that you're going to scale your business with, we want to make sure you have all the tools available. And that doesn't mean you need to start using every tool from the first day forward. What's important to do is understand what can you use and what do you need to use from today onwards. So first is the stream. A stream is available as a company overall, and some of you may have permissions to see so and others not. And you can see all the different activities across all the different companies, departments that you may be working with. Now, as you go through and you view what is an activity, it's similar to a fitness tracker. You're tracking what are you doing at any given time, whether it be from a business perspective in Accelo, or when I mentioned, analogy to a fitness tracker, say you're playing soccer as an example. So as we're going through these activities, you can go through and think of an internal note, external email, sorry about that, meeting, calls, and postals. So the common differences are when you choose a note versus an email, a note is meant to be internal. This will also include Accelo links to, say, an example sale. If you use an email, it'll just be the subject and description. Meetings integrate with your calendar if you're using, say, O365 or Google Calendar. And calls are internal only. So you say I give you a phone call. You can record what happened in that phone call, but those details will be meant for an internal purpose. Lastly, if you're sending out packages, you can go ahead and mark a postal. There's two major parts of these activities. They're going to be against an object, and there's a timer at the bottom that's automatically running. You can always go through and change your preferences to have this be, just at 0 to start with, and you can update it with, say, 2H30M or something of that sort. And on the top, these objects are the different modules. So say you're recording what took place. So for example, Accelo webinar. So I'm going to go through and just eliminate here. Attended Accelo's webinar. This took approximately, say, 45 minutes. You can then find what you want to log this against as a specific object. Now, a common question in our previous webinar was how do we go through and make this private for whatever reason? And then you can find that right here. Another question that's very common is, what if I want to log it for yesterday? And you can still log that for yesterday by clicking on the log time option. Okay. So again, that's just activities in a nutshell. And again, we're going to be talking about the different objects. So why are we talking about activities first? Because again, that is the core of Accelo. You're going to have a lot of different projects, sales, tickets. You're going to be recording what took place through activities, where you might be recording it against a budget or billing for it based on time and materials. So I'm going to X out of this and then bring up those different objects. So if I click on this top left module button, depending on the subscription that your team has, you might be able to see all of this, or you may be only see specific modules. Some teams that we work with only use sales, only use projects, and so on. So just keep that in mind if you don't see everything up front. So the core of Accelo is those companies in context. Again, thinking about these different modules / objects. We have different sales opportunities that can be for brand new sales or for upsell opportunities. We have projects for your milestone and task-based work, tickets for your short-term work, retainers for your reoccurring work, reoccurring budgets, flat rate budgets in a lot of different cases. And then we have the financial details. So today we're going to be touching on how to view a given company in context and going through each of these modules fairly, high level rather than too granular. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the top bar and then dive into those companies in context and run through this. But suppose I want to search for a specific company, I can type in C and type in Apple as an example. I can do that for sale, and I can do that for anything within this list. There's a lot. If Accelo is going to be that all-central tool, we want you to quickly be able to search for anything that you need to find. I like to consider the stream, such as a Facebook newsfeed, and then the global search bar as your Google for all your client work and client communications. On the top right-hand side, we'll see the different work management tools, where there's several different tools that you can use, everything from different filters to different dashboards, to a task board, to scheduling tools, to the stream that we just viewed, to timesheets, to different reports in your inbox. We're going to be going through what's applicable for those that are just starting onto Accelo throughout this session. But first, I'm going to go through a specific company record, say Apple in this regard. So I'm pulling up the specific company record. What this allows me to see is what's the current status of this company, where is it within its life cycle, the company details on the left-hand side, and an overview dashboard of the engagement over time. Think of those as different activities relative to the hours, revenue in the past year, number of touches in the past week, and recent work and details within there. So overall, every company that you work with, whether it be a prospect, a client you work with, or a client you worked with in the past, will have its own dashboard. As you pull up this company, so for example, a individual from Apple gives you a phone call, you'll be able to go through the stream to see all the ongoing efforts that are currently happening. The work tab to see all of the active work. There's attachments, assets, contributions, tasks, and billing. Again, those that are a little bit more advanced. And we'll talk about some of these as we go through. But for today, we're going to be running through each of these different modules. So again, feel free to continue asking questions about, say, companies. And then as we move forward, I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions about these sales, projects, tickets, and retainers. So I'm just going to quickly pull up a separate tab for each one. And as I pull that up, one thing to note is as reviewing these different companies, there's other different parts such as privacy, client portal, and so on that if you're interested in. And at any time, again, feel free to use that help button and ask us any questions, and we can send over some documentation throughout this session. Okay. So otherwise, we're going to go through an example sale. So imagine we're looking to prospect Apple for the iPhone X Plus website. When you bring up the sale at the beginning, you can see the title, the company details, the sale details, such as the salesperson. This is a user account I'm logged into. The contributors. This is everyone a part of that team for that sale. These are your different stakeholders, such as your vendors and your client or prospective client. It could also be your internal staff and the different roles within them. On the top, you can see the current status of the sale. Say it's a quote requested. We have different key values, such as the $10,000 for this given website. You have probability, and you have star rating, which I like to keep at least less subjective, and rather than just saying everything's a 5-star sale, everything's a 1-star sale. If you're working in a larger team, we want to keep this, again, at the least subjective as possible. Note, as you continue using these different sales, each of these can be updated over time, where it may go from a $5,000 or $10,000 deal to, say, a $5,000 deal. The probability may go to very likely. Okay. Next, a big major part is that due date option. As you're looking to forecast your pipeline and funnel moving forward, you want to continually update that due date to match it. I like to keep it simple and just add it to the end of the month. The idea at the end of the month is this is, say, a April deal. So it's part of the funnel for April. You can always add tasks along the way. So if you're on the sales team, you may know like a discovery call and add that in. Now, a common question is, what's the difference between an activity and a task? So you'll notice you can add activities to a task. The idea with a task is that is a to-do, something that needs to happen, such as a deliverable. And an activity is logging time against it or logging what happened to complete that task. Okay. Overall, as you work on the sale, you have the option of adding in a quote that we're not really going to be discussing in this specific session. We do have, again, separate webinars for that. But you can also just go through and create a related project, ticket, and retainer. Okay. So overall, again, you can continually just add in your different sales opportunities into the system. Again, plus create sale opportunity, and then manage the sale, log time, log activities for what happened during that sale, such as a phone call. And you can put in during the message what took place, and then the bottom, how much time took place for it. So overall, you get a general idea of how much time you're spending. If you're managing a large number of different sales opportunities, you can quickly go back to see what was the last note that was logged, such as 7 hours ago on this given opportunity. Okay. Otherwise, we can continue moving forward. I see there's no questions at the moment. Again, feel free to add those in. Otherwise, we'll just go dive into projects. Now, as we look through our 4 modules, sometimes they're relatively streamlined. You'll just kind of see we have a company record and a contact. We just viewed a sale. That sale can result in a project. Once the project is complete, you may have a support contract with a number of different tickets within that. And that's the order we're going to be running through it. So next is we're going to view that overall project. So as we're viewing this project, again, there's different milestones and then different tasks within it. We can quickly see, based off the different statuses and so on, what has been logged, say, relative to each task. Again, we have some dummy data from this morning. We can also look at the stream for the overall details for what's going on. And similarly to the other modules, again, manager, team, company details, and what's the current status of this. Again, a lot of this might be different relative to your specific configurations that you've done. Okay. So otherwise, as reviewing this project, you may come into this project, view what you need to do, and filter by your specific name, and then log time. I can click on this log time option and then log what I did. Okay. You can also update the status while you're logging time and then put in, say, 1 hour. Again, common question, I want to log it for a previous date, and you can click on this calendar right over here. So if you save this log, it'll then update that project plan and go ahead and log that hour against it. Now, a common question is add activity versus log time. So log time is a different icon that we added in relatively recently. And the idea is we wanted to keep it simple for new users that just want to log time. They don't want to be complexed or perplexed from all of these different types of activities. But essentially, an activity note is the same thing as logging time. And logging time is the same thing as an activity note. The difference is you can't send this log time to anybody. Add activity note has the option of choosing who you want to send it to. Okay. And add activity also has options of sending it to other users, such as for emails and meetings. Okay. So next, post this project, we have tickets. So say this project is complete. Say you've gone through this, you've marked this as complete, you marked the rest of these as complete. You may have a number of different tickets relative to your support contract. So if we go through tickets, we may want to understand where that support contract comes into play. You have the overall retainer, and these retainers can be set up in different ways. So let's going to go through and just look at that and get an idea of how these retainers can be set up. So as reviewing this, we have website support contract. Now the major question is this like an agreed upon amount up front, or is this billed on time and materials every billing cycle? I like to consider periods as billing cycles. And then it can either be prepaid or postpaid. Prepaid means a flat rate amount up front, and upfront meaning that you've agreed upon it up front. While you still may be billing at the end of the month, you just know it's a flat rate amount. Versus postpaid this is more time and materials. This is along the idea of you're billing based off, say, $100 an hour for any time logged against this. Okay. So in this case, we have $2,000 for 10 hours of work, and that's pretty much it. You can also go through and have a number of different tasks and materials that are templated for each new period. Again, key, if you ever edit the overall retainer, that's only going to be for future periods moving forward. Other common use cases of this is website support. In our accounting industry, we say have payroll or biweekly payroll, bookkeeping. A lot of individuals in the law industry have basically a retainer that's meant for a number of hours, say 20 hours of work. And in that case, there may not be per month, it could be unlimited. So they're asking for 20 hours of work for say $4,000. And then once this is done, they may create another retainer. What's super nice about these retainers is, again, you only have to say create it once. You create the retainer once, and it'll replicate for each given month moving forward. In this case, you have April to May, and then it'll go from May to June and so on. You only, again, need to create the retainer once and continually, repeat these given periods, but you can always go into any of these periods and edit them. What's really interesting to note is as you have these given retainers, you can always link up projects and tickets to that retainer. So if there is an existing retainer for that ticket, you can always edit it, or while you're creating it, you can go through and link up that ticket. So I'm going to link it now and link up this ticket to this retainer. But let's go through tickets as well. So we talked about sales for new opportunities. We talked about projects for milestones and tasks. We talked about retainers for reoccurring work, reoccurring billing cycles and such. But we didn't really talk about that short-term work where you may not be even billing for this at the moment. We want to keep it fairly easy, so every time a client asks you, I need something fixed really quickly. A lot of times what we found is clients that come to us from using, say, spreadsheets or other tools, they don't bill for that short-term work. We want you to be quickly able to go to, say, your inbox with a number of activities within it, and then quickly be able to convert those different requests from your clients into different tickets. If you can convert it into different tickets, then you can quickly go through and log time, say, directly against that ticket. You may not need to assign out this or schedule out a full-on project plan because it's meant to be just a short-term piece of work such as ad blog. As you're going through, there's different assignees that you can continually alter. You still have the same idea of like the team. You don't necessarily see a project plan, but you see the subject and description for what needs to happen. Under upcoming work, you have the option of creating tasks similar to sales. And then you have a stream for all the different activities that are ongoing. If you ever log time against a ticket that is linked to a retainer, which is fairly common, but not necessary, I can go through and put that in. I can put in, say, 1 hour and save log. So as you're going through this different ticket, again, you've already logged time against this ticket, but you can also see as part of this contract what's happening. So if you view this retainer, we can see the projects, but we can see the linked tickets. In this case, we've linked up this given ticket. So you'll notice that I edited this retainer previously. Just because it says 20 hours of work and I edited the overall retainer, that's again only going to update it for future periods. But for this given period, we have 10 hours. And since we logged against a ticket that's linked to that retainer, we can then see that there's 1 hour logged against this given period. We can see that breakdown. So imagine you have different payroll, you're billing the client, $500 a month. You can have different tickets for adding or subtracting users from their, say, QuickBooks account. You may have a retainer up front for $1,000 of any sort of service. You may have a support retainer, so think of IT support and so on. And you're able to go ahead and do so. Okay. So we have a question that says, we do bookkeeping and everything is on retainers. I want to use template retainers that is similar work done for different companies. So from a setup perspective, you can always go through the configuration and set up template types. So when you're creating a brand new retainer, and if you set that up, you can go ahead and choose the type that you want to use. Okay. So this could be like your bookkeeping, for example. Okay. So yeah, we can send you a link, Wayne, about setting up, templates for these retainers. But once you set up a template, adding in the other retainers is fairly easy. Okay.
Absolutely, Wayne. I'll follow up with that link here shortly.
Perfect. So let's go back and take a few steps back. So we had the overall company. Remember, each of any prospect or any company that you work with will always have a company record. You can see the stream for all the ongoing activities, and you can use the work tab for all the different objects here. Okay. Now we went through sales again for the tracking the different opportunities, projects for those milestones and tasks, tickets for the short-term work, and retainers for those support contracts. Okay, so I'll leave just for a second. Any questions? Nope. Otherwise, we'll just keep moving forward. So again, as we got a quick intro to the different modules in Accelo, remember, you may not be using every single one. So for example, I rarely use the sales module and the retainers module in Accelo. My focus is on implementation projects. So, as a user, you may want to have insight onto the different sales that are upcoming because they may be related to, say, projects, but you don't have to master each of these different modules. But it is good to get an idea of what is happening within those different modules. So some other common, questions is when you log time against, a sale, a project, ticket, and retainer, remember that the only billable objects are the projects, tickets, and retainers, and that's where you can invoice from as well. And since this is more of an intro, if you're looking through projects and never want to bill for it, under Create, you'll see the option for Invoice, where the idea with invoicing, and just to give you, just opening up that toolbox, is you can go through and quickly just choose a template, and it could be as easy as just choosing a template, and that's it. Preview and edit PDF, and save and close and save that invoice. Okay. Well, there's a few questions, so we can start spending our attention on how do you manage your day-to-day in Accelo. So first is I really recommend integrating your calendar and email. I would make sure with your admin staff, if that's something they're looking to do at this time, as I know some of our clients do, or probably about 80% of our clients do, 20% do not. but we really find that super beneficial to be able to quickly log time based off of your calendar and emails possibly sent on the go. Next is if you have that, those calendar and emails, you can already start using Accelo as a CRM, where the CRM is what we consider the backbone of our ServeOps platform, where you can have sales on top, projects, tickets, and retainers as well. But as you log in from your day-to-day, what can happen and how do you make that process very efficient? So first is we want to set up different filters. So for example, we can go to the project section. We can see that we have different filters on this left-hand side. So we created these this morning. So if I click on my project filter, it'll say projects that I'm the manager of. Now there's a large number of filters that you can use, but to save a filter, say I want to choose the team. I'm part of the team on that project. Remember that left-hand side option. I'm going to see Accelo webinar, and then I can save that filter and say projects I am a part of, or just my projects. Just keep it simple. I don't have to share this because this is for my own personal user account. If I wanted to share it with everyone, I can hit yes. But what that does is if you hover over saved on this top right-hand side, when you log in, you can quickly go to the project, say that you're a part of. Okay. Once you go there, you can open these up and log time against the different milestones and tasks within it. So just a quick reminder, you can run into these different projects and log time again against what you're doing. And while you're logging time, you can quickly update the statuses as well as the details below. Okay. So again, you have these different projects. As you're going through, you can also use different dashboards. So personally, I like using the schedule dashboard to see, have I followed up on all the different implementation projects I'm a part of? So if I go through here, again, there's only one project in this account. I can pull up all projects and view what took place on that day. Okay. So this dashboard is extremely helpful when you have a large number of projects and you can quickly see what have you done or what you need to do. And if there was forecasted work in advance, it would show up on this right-hand side. Moving forward, we also have a task board where you may want to start tracking all the different time entries across, or basically start logging time entries across all the different tasks, as well as viewing it based on a status board, based on a deadline board, an assignment board. So if I go through and log time directly from here, you have the option of doing so. And so on. But my ultimate favorite is the daily timesheet. Again, for everyone, you may have different tools that you like to use. Some individuals love the weekly timesheet. I personally like the daily timesheet, and that even differs on our own internal team here at Accelo. I love the daily timesheet because I'll have all my emails, I'll have all my calendar invites. I can quickly just log time directly from here. Again, since we don't have an email or calendar integrated with the specific account, you can see that this will show us what we've done so far. So I can make sure that from 8 to 5, I've logged all my time for the day, and maybe I haven't. So I can hit log time directly from here and put in those times. Now, a question is, do I need to be very specific about this time on this bottom right-hand side? And honestly, the answer is no. You don't have to be that granular. It's how you report on it. Are you reporting on it from a day-to-day perspective, from a morning perspective? Are you reporting it from a day perspective, a week perspective, or a month? Here at Accelo, we report on it from a daily, but mainly weekly perspective. We're not looking at what time did you log the time. We're looking at how much time did you log relative to the different projects. Are you doing non-billable or billable work, and so on. Again, this is a daily timesheet. Again, if you get your calendar and email connected, I highly recommend taking a look at this. And once you see your calendar connected, you can log time and then you can relocate it to the correct part of that project. That's important. While logging time is nice, you want to make sure you're logging it against the correct part of that project. Next, you have a weekly view. Where you can see where is that time gone on each particular day, and you can quickly log time against whatever you'd like. If you're using or used to timesheets in the past, this is really useful because you can quickly go and just log time. Or if you're doing kind of the same projects on and on, you can come to this one weekly timesheet and take care of it. Okay. Otherwise, again, we do have another webinar on this a little bit more in depth with different options, but we want you to be able to quickly get an idea of what you need to do, what you have done, and again, those timesheets also populate it with, again, what you need to do. We'll have a timesheet report for getting a breakdown of what, say, an individual has done, or what all individuals have done if you're, say, on the admin staff. You can filter this by specific days, weeks, months, and so on. And then last but not least, you have the user icon, where you can track the different integration notifications, your personal account settings, and your preferences, which I want to bring up in just a moment. So as we're looking through preferences, again, this is from a user perspective, you may want to go ahead and expand these out. So you want to make sure what is that default screen you really enjoy coming onto, what you find helpful. Your request inboxes, these are your team inboxes, such as support and sales, for which ones you're a part of. You have email privacy settings. The main one here is that auto start activity timer. Like, do you want that timer to automatically start? You have a work week. Do you work every single day of the week? And then you have vacation calendar. The idea is you can start tracking, I'm going to be out on, say, the 27th, and you can say that Sagar out of office. This will take you away from our resource planning screens. So individuals are notified that you're trying to schedule time for a day that Sagar's off. So last, you have the notification settings. A very common question is, I'm getting way too many notifications, or why is this individual getting a notification? Chances are you haven't set your settings just yet, and I highly recommend doing so, because by just looking through notifications, there are so many different types of notifications that and the way I consider too many notifications is it's just noise. Okay. Things like the assignee, it's helpful to get notified, but you don't have to get notified on everything. Make sure you hit save at the bottom.